Our movie starts with a guy named Zach driving his car with his son Mandela. They're stopped at a red light, and Mandela is playing with his teddy bear while his dad talks to him about how to deal with the kids who keep messing with him at practice. Mandela explains that the bullies are older than him, so there's not much he can do. Suddenly, Zach looks ahead and sees two gangsters driving by. They pull out guns and start shooting at a car. Everyone around them starts screaming and running through the street. Zach tries to calm Mandela down because the poor kid is terrified. The two gangsters walk toward Zach and order him out of the car. Then they notice he has a little kid with him, so they back off. They look through the back window at Mandela, tell him not to be scared, mess with him a little, and then leave. After that, another guy gets out of their car, takes the car they were after, and drives away. Zach is completely shaken by what just happened. We then meet an older gangster named Ezekiel, who runs a gang out of a junkyard. Lermo, one of the guys from the street, is there with him, along with another battered-looking man. Ezekiel is furious because the man betrayed him. He points to a hanging hook and tells him that he's going to end up there. The man begs for forgiveness, but Ezekiel doesn't care. Suddenly, Lermo pulls out his gun and shoots the man, leaving Ezekiel covered in blood. Meanwhile, Zach and Mandela finally make it home. Mandela's mom, Portia, has been waiting for them. The kid runs straight to his mother and tells her everything that happened in the street. Portia is terrified when she realizes they witnessed a shooting in broad daylight. She tells Zach she's scared for their son after what he saw, but Zach assures her that everything is going to be okay. He goes over to Mandela and jokes around with him. Mandela takes the blood on his hand and wipes it onto the wall. The next day, Zach goes to the restaurant he runs with his brother, Zuko. He walks in and finds Zuko cooking chicken, but Zach immediately notices that the meat smells bad and seems spoiled. Zuko admits he bought it from a friend for way cheaper than the normal price. Zach gets angry and tells him to throw it away, but Zuko refuses. Zach walks outside, then takes his own meal and gives it to a homeless man before leaving. At the same time, Lermo and Ezekiel are discussing their business. Lermo suggests putting Keros behind the wheel of their taxis instead of the driver who was killed, so they can move on from the car washing business. Ezekiel agrees, and they take Keros out to teach him how to drive. Meanwhile, Zach goes to the DMV to get his license. The place is packed, and he gets frustrated. One of the employees talks to him and explains that it's actually the workers. Break time. Zach leaves, then gets a phone call and rushes to his son's training session. When he arrives, he finds Mandela sitting with a friend, looking upset. Mandela points out the two kids who have been bullying him. Zach immediately runs over and warns them that if they ever touch his son again, he'll call the police and make sure they get arrested. The coach comes over and argues with Zach, telling him that threatening the kids isn't the right way to handle things. Zach loses his temper and argues back, telling her that what those kids did to his son was the real problem. He grabs Mandela and leaves. On the way home, Zach and Mandela are talking in the car when another vehicle suddenly cuts them off, causing a crash. Lermo gets out and starts arguing with Zach, telling him to get out of the car. Mandela begs his dad not to get out, but Zach does anyway. Zach and Lermo start fighting. Keros tries to calm things down, while Mandela grabs his phone and calls his mom, but she doesn't answer because she's in a yoga class. Keros manages to separate them and tells Zach to get back to his son. Zach finally calms down and heads back toward his car, but Lermo keeps provoking him, so Zach turns around and attacks him again. A few more gang members jump in and start beating Zach. When Zach gets back up, Lermo is pointing a gun straight at him. Suddenly, Keros attacks one of the gangsters and grabs the gun. A shot goes off by accident. Zach runs back to his car and discovers that the bullet hit Mandela. He rushes his son to the hospital, where Mandela is taken into surgery. Back at the junkyard, Lermo returns to Ezekiel. Ezekiel gets furious with him and starts yelling at him. Two other gang members walk in and show Ezekiel a picture of Mandela after being shot. Ezekiel gives them some money, but they complain that it isn't enough. After arguing for a moment, they finally leave. At the hospital, Mandela is lying unconscious while Zach and Portia stay beside him. Zach tries to explain what happened and insists that it wasn't his fault, but Portia is furious and tells him that he has a serious anger problem and never admits when he's wrong. Meanwhile, Keros is being questioned by detectives Lily and Floyd. They ask him about Lermo, but Keros denies knowing him. The detectives tell him that he was seen riding in his taxi and that Lermo even knew his name. Karos insists that Lermo was just a regular customer and that he doesn't really know him. The detectives keep pressuring him, but Karos refuses to confess anything. At the same time, Zach calls his insurance company to fix a problem with his coverage. The customer service representative stays annoyingly calm while Zach gets more and more frustrated. Eventually, she tells him he has to pay $80,000 because of an issue with his insurance. Zach calls his brother and asks him to somehow come up with the $80,000 because he desperately needs it. Later, Zach goes to the police station to identify the suspects. He doesn't recognize anyone in the lineup. As he's leaving, he notices a man walking by and recognizes his shoes. Zach stops him and insists that he's the guy he's looking for because he remembers being kicked by those same shoes. The man's lawyer tries to intervene, but Zach refuses to back down. Detective Floyd comes over and explains that since Zach didn't identify the man during the lineup, they can't take action against him based on Zach's claim alone. Zach gets even more angry. As the suspect and his lawyer leave, Zach snaps. He grabs a gun from one of the detectives, points it at the suspect and his lawyer, and threatens them. Lily rushes over and tries to calm him down. She tells Zach that this isn't going to help and that they can reopen the investigation. She reminds him that his wife and son need him. Zach slowly starts to calm down. Meanwhile, Portia is walking through the hospital when she sees doctors rushing into Mandela's room. She runs after them and watches through the glass as they desperately try to save her son. The nurses eventually close the curtain, leaving Portia completely devastated. A few days later, Mandela dies. Portia sits at home in shock, remembering her son. She looks at the bloodstain Mandela left on the wall when he wiped his hand there. Her mother tries to clean it, but Portia completely breaks down and collapses on the floor. Zach comes over and tries to comfort her, but Portia tells him she wants him to stay away from her. Zach leaves. Meanwhile, Lily searches for Mandela's case file at the police station, but it's missing. She runs to Floyd and tells him what happened. Both detectives are shocked. They go to Zach's house and tell him the file has disappeared. Zach gets furious and argues with them. After that, Zach starts investigating the gang himself. He notices the logo on one of the gang's cars and discovers that Lermo works for a taxi company owned by a man named Ezekiel. Zach collects surveillance footage from around the area and eventually gets a clear look at Lermo. Later, Zach spots Lermo at a market. He secretly takes a picture of him, but Lermo suddenly disappears. That night, Lermo is at a garage with another suspect. They order him to take care of Zach. Zach is tied up in a car and taken to a dark location. They leave him there, but a dog suddenly starts barking. Lermo lets go of Zach to deal with the dog. Zach takes the opportunity to escape and hide. Lermo searches the area with a flashlight while Zach manages to cut the rope around his hands and remove the mask from his face. Lermo spots him and starts shooting. Zach runs for his life while Lermo chases him. Zach eventually sneaks up behind him while he's opening a cabinet. He knocks the cabinet over onto him, and the two start fighting. Zach tries to grab the gun, but a shot goes off. He manages to escape, runs to his car, and searches for his keys. Suddenly, Lermo appears beside him, pointing a gun at him and covered in blood. Before Zach can react, Lermo collapses. Zach takes the car and drives away. When he gets home, he finds Portia asleep. He stands in front of the mirror, covered in blood. The next morning, Zach goes to the police station and asks for Lily and Floyd. At the same time, Lily and Floyd are questioning Ezekiel about the gangster who worked for him and was found dead the previous day. They show him pictures of Zach, but Ezekiel denies knowing anything. After the interrogation, Ezekiel sees Zach leaving with Floyd. Zach suddenly discovers that Floyd has taken Mandela's case file and handed it to Ezekiel. Floyd warns Ezekiel to stay away from Lily and to make sure Zach doesn't get in their way. Ezekiel takes the file and gives Floyd some cash, complaining that Floyd shorted him on the last payment. Floyd returns to his office, puts up a picture of Zach, and tells Lily they need to be careful because Zach is becoming dangerous. Zach goes back to the restaurant and looks for his gun in the safe, but it's gone. He asks Zuko about it and discovers that his brother hid it from him. Zuko refuses to give it back because he doesn't want Zach to destroy his own life. Zach gets angry and tells him he has to avenge his son. Zuko reminds him that he needs to stop acting recklessly. He also reminds Zack that he once took the blame for him and went to prison because of it. Zack becomes even more furious. He jumps over the counter and grabs the gun from Zuko. They struggle over it, and suddenly the gun goes off, shooting Zuko in the leg. Later, Lily and Floyd visit Portia at home and question her. They explain that Zack may be involved in a murder and that Mandela's case file has disappeared. Portia's mother gets furious. She tells the detectives they should be looking for the person who killed her grandson, instead of interrogating the family. She kicks them out. Meanwhile, Zack sneaks into Ezekiel's junkyard and hides between the cars while listening to the gang talk about Mandela's death. Lermo gets a phone call and steps away. Zack sneaks up behind him, puts a gun to his head, and orders him not to move. Lermo tries to provoke Zack, and the two start fighting. Back at Zack's house, Zuko arrives on crutches and tells Portia what happened between him and Zack. He explains that Zack was only trying to protect his family. They talk about how angry Zack has become and how he might end up destroying himself. Then they go into Zack's office and look at all the pictures and evidence he collected. They start to realize that Zack may have killed the gangster. Portia grabs her phone and calls Lily, warning her that Zack is in serious danger. Meanwhile, Zack is covered in blood inside the junkyard. Ezekiel has captured him and is beating him. Ezekiel tells Zack that the cars outside aren't ordinary cars. They use them to hide bodies. He accuses Zack of invading his territory and orders his men to kill him. The gang members drag Zack outside, throw him into a car trunk, and take him away. Lermo then uses a tow truck to move the car toward a giant crusher, with Zack trapped inside. Just before they can crush the car, the police arrive. Lermo stops the tow truck while the other gang members run away. Ezekiel comes out and talks to Lily, who tells him they received a report that Zack is somewhere inside. Ezekiel denies everything. Lily and Floyd search the junkyard themselves. Floyd finds Zack's driver's license, but secretly hides it and tells Lily they didn't find anything. The detectives leave. Lermo searches the junkyard for Zack, but can't find him. Zack is hiding between the cars and overhears Ezekiel giving the gang the address of Zack's house and ordering them to kill everyone inside. Zack escapes and rushes home. Later, Lermo and Karo sneak into Zack's house through a window. Zuko is sleeping downstairs in the living room when he hears a noise. He grabs his gun and goes to investigate. He spots the intruders coming up the stairs and points his gun at them. Before he can say anything, Lermo pulls out his gun and shoots him. Portia hears the gunshots and runs to hide inside a closet. When the gangsters pass, she sneaks downstairs and finds Zuko lying on the floor, covered in blood. She kneels beside him in shock. Then she hears Lermo coming downstairs, so she hides again. Lermo walks into the kitchen, giving Portia a chance to run outside. She opens the front door and suddenly finds Zack standing there. She grabs him and runs with him to hide. Karos is still upstairs and sees them running through the yard. Lermo appears behind him, and Karos lies, telling him he didn't find anyone. They leave the house. Portia runs back to Zuko and tries to wake him, but he's already dead. She tells Zack that what he's doing is putting everyone around him in danger. She begs him to go to the police before he loses anyone else. But Zack refuses. He tells her the police are working for the gang. Portia breaks down and tells him she can't lose him too. Zack leaves and sits alone somewhere. Then the insurance employee calls him and tells him that his claim has finally been approved. Zack gets upset and tells her it doesn't matter anymore because his son is dead. The woman starts crying and tells Zack that she understands his pain because she also had a daughter who died. The next morning, Portia attends Mandela's funeral holding his teddy bear. Lily and Floyd are there too. Portia gives a heartbreaking speech about her son. Zack secretly watches the funeral from a distance and hears her talking about Mandela. He becomes emotional. Suddenly, Portia sees Zack. She stops talking and stares at him. Lily and Floyd turn around and see him too. Zack immediately runs. Floyd and Lily chase after him. Zack hides behind a car, then gets inside another vehicle and drives away before they can catch him. Floyd takes out his phone and calls Ezekiel, warning him that Zack is coming and that he clearly wants revenge. Zack sneaks into Ezekiel's junkyard looking for answers. He discovers that the gang is hiding bodies inside cars, but Ezekiel catches him and orders his men to get rid of him. Zach manages to escape and later learns that the gang is planning to attack his house. Lermo and Karos break into Zach's home. Zuko confronts them but gets shot. Portia hides and eventually escapes with Zach. Sadly, when they return, they find Zuko dead. Portia begs Zach to stop before he loses everyone. But Zach refuses because he believes the police are working for the gang. At Mandela's funeral, Zach watches Portia say goodbye to their son. When she sees him, Lily and Floyd spot him too, so Zach runs away. He decides to confront the gang himself. Zach sneaks into the junkyard disguised as a delivery driver and follows Lermo into a warehouse. After a brutal fight, Zach manages to overpower him. Before Lermo dies, he tells Zach that he wasn't the one who killed Mandela. Zach then confronts Ezekiel. Just as he's about to get answers, Lily and Floyd arrive. Ezekiel reveals that Floyd has been taking his money. Floyd suddenly shoots Ezekiel, and Lily realizes that Floyd is corrupt. She turns her gun on him and shoots him too. Zach then goes after Karos. During their confrontation, Karos admits he never meant to kill Mandela. His son suddenly fires a gun, accidentally hitting his own father. For a moment, Zach mistakes the boy for Mandela and breaks down emotionally. Realizing the truth, Zach finally lets go of his anger. He calls for an ambulance, apologizes to Portia, and admits he was wrong. The movie ends with Zach crying at a bus stop before getting on a minibus carrying